Hey, you guys, on today's episode of Tips with Tea, we are going to talk about paying off debt, effective strategies like Snowball and Avalanche methods. Okay. Um, Again, we are in a place where where our economy is looking like it's not going to get better. Okay. Instead of us going into a um, positive direction, we're looking like we're going towards more of a negative direction. We're looking like we're going to see a lot of inflation. We might see a recession. So now is the time for us to, again, live below our means and start using some of those strategies to live below our means to save money to pay off debt. Okay. So debt can feel overwhelming, but with the right strategies, it is possible to buy it off. It's possible to pay it off and achieve financial freedom. Okay. In this episode, we'll break down effective methods for tackling debt, including the popular snowball and avalanche methods. Whether you're dealing with credit card balances, student loans, or medical bills, this episode provides actionable steps to help you to get out of debt faster. Okay. So hopefully this episode, y'all can have some good takeaways on how to get out of debt faster, pay things off, and then don't get back into debt again if you don't need to. Okay. So we got some key points we're going to talk about. The first thing we're going to talk about is why tackling debt is critical. There is financial benefits, which is free up money for savings, investments, and other goals. Reduce stress caused by interest payments and overdue bills. The emotional benefits are it gives you a sense of control over your finances. It helps you to achieve peace of mind and focus on long-term goals. Okay. Another key point we're going to talk about is the overview of debt repayment methods. So the first one we're going to talk about is snowball method. I think I talked about the snowball method before. But how the snowball method works, it is you list debts from the smallest to the largest balances. Pay minimums on all debts except for the smallest. Focus extra money on paying off the smallest debt first. And then once the smallest debt is paid off, roll the payment amount into the next smallest debt. Okay, so that's the snowball effect. The pros of this is quick wins, build momentum and motivation. Another pro to this is it's easy to stick with, especially for those who need emotional encouragement. The con to this method is may not save as much money than interest over time. Okay. So that's the snowball method, but it is possible. The snowball method is possible. I tell a lot of my clients to use the snowball method first. All right. Because the snowball method is not that much overwhelming. Okay. I tell them to take small steps first. So tackle the small debts first. Because if you try to tackle the big debts first, some people get really, really overwhelmed. All right. The next method we're going to talk about is the avalanche method. All right. So how does this method work? So it's the opposite. You list debts from the highest to the lowest interest rate. You pay the minimums on all debts except for the ones with the highest interest rate. You focus extra money on paying off the debt with the highest interest rate, and you repeat until all debts are paid off. The pros to this approach is you save the most money in interest, you reduce overall repayment time, and the cons to this is progress may feel slower, especially if higher interest rate debts have larger balances. Okay. The third key point we're going to talk about is choosing the right method for you. Okay. So the snowball method is best for those who need quick psychological wins to stay motivated. Okay. The avalanche method is ideal for those who want to save the most money and are motivated by numbers. Okay. The hybrid approach combines both methods by focusing on small wins intentionally, then tackling higher interest debt. Okay. So there are practical tips for accelerating debt repayments, and we're going to talk about the steps. There are 5 steps. Step 1 is assets your debt situation. Assess your debt situation. List all debts, including balances, interest rates, and minimum payments. And then total your debt to get a clear picture of what you owe. That's step one. Step two is to create a budget. So you want to identify areas where you can cut back to free up money for debt repayment. Use tools like budgeting apps and spreadsheets to stay on track. We talked about this, like the apps and stuff in a previous episode, right? And how we can use living below our means to save money, and then you can use that towards paying off some debt. So if you haven't listened to that previous episode, go back and listen to that previous episode. It might be helpful. Step three is you want to increase your income. So take on a side hustle or freelance work, sell unused items to generate extra cash. So in the last episode, we talked about decluttering. I declutter every year. Sometimes I resell my items on Poshmark. Sometimes I do not. I take them to Goodwill. But if you're looking to get the extra cash, I will advise you to resell those items on Poshmark, eBay, something like that, where you can get that money back and you can use that money to pay towards a bill. Step four, you want to automate payments. So set up automated payments to ensure you never miss a due date. Allocate any windfalls. So example, if you get bonuses, tax refunds, you can use those things towards your debt. You can use those things to pay off some things or pay up some things in the future. Okay. So step five is to avoid new debt. So pause unnecessary credit card uses until your debt is under control. Build an emergency fund to prevent relying on credit for unexpected expenses. Okay. The fifth and last key point we're going to talk about is staying motivated during the process. It can be very stressful and when you're trying to tackle debt, and it's a lot of debt, but celebrate small milestones like paying off a single debt. Track your progress visually. So do a payoff debt charter app. Remind yourself of the bigger picture and how debt freedom will improve your life. Okay. Like I said, I used the snowball effect myself before. Very, very helpful. It kept me motivated. Do those things. I cut back a lot. I lived below my means a lot. I became very frugal in a lot of things to avoid debt and to be able to cut back on a lot of things. Okay, so try those things. All right. Some takeaways for you guys on today is to choose a repayment method, Snowball Avalanche, to create a plan to implement. Okay, choose the right one for you. List all your debts today to gain a clarity on where to start, and identify one expense you can cut this week and put that money towards debt repayment. What are one expense that you can live without? It might be a subscription, might be a streaming service, it might be cable, it might be, okay, I'm gonna terminate my cable and I'm just gonna stream wherever I want to watch. Because I guarantee you, a lot of people who have cable, they still have somewhere in their house where they can stream services like through a Fire Stick or something like that. You don't need both. You only need one or the other. So that might be an area that you can cut back in. Okay. So paying off debt is a journey that requires patience and discipline, but the reward is financial freedom. Okay. Whether you prefer the quick win of the snowball method or the cost saving focus of the avalanche method, the key is to stay consistent and to keep moving fast. Okay. So share this episode, you guys, with someone who is struggling with debt and encourage them to take the first step towards financial freedom today. All right. We all have been there. The way our economy is going, more people are going to be there, but when we can find ways to cut back and save, we can avoid from getting to that part of debt. Okay. Another thing that you guys can do, that I mentioned before, to find different ways to create income. You should have multiple streams of income, and when you get an additional stream of income, use that stream of income to pay down debt. Okay. So all right, you guys, thank you for listening into this episode. It has been a pleasure, and I will see you on the next episode of Tips with T.